It's Spoilerin time. I am Tom Merritt, Brian Brushwood, and Anthony Carboni with us today in the same room. I want to say studio because it's not really a studio.
It's a studio. Come on,
you
got to own it.
Studio equipment here.
There's studio equipment scattered about.
If you're sitting where we're sitting, it looks an awful lot like a studio.
Some of it is set up on top of cardboard boxes.
Sure,
but it's fine. But there's studio equipment on those boxes. And that's
studio equipment arrived within that cardboard box.
Wow.
See,
yeah.
So technically, it's all studio equipment or studio equipment storage devices.
If
we are going
like a studio. It's a studio.
We are going to finish this episode by spoiling Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. That'll be the last thing. Anthony hasn't seen it, but apparently he doesn't care. We're going to talk about episode 2 of The Leftovers. Okay. Then we're going to talk about, or before that, we'll talk about episode 8 of season 2 of The Shield. But to start the show, I did that in reverse order because I wanted the big reveal to be Brian Brushwood has finally watched episode 1 of Orphan Black.
Yeah, man. It was man, it being on Prime really does just make it super easy to hop in and go on there. Number one, it took me a while to figure out what place this was. Like,
I had the same thing, like at the beginning, because it was shot in Canada and it's BBC, but it's BBC America.
It's so funny. Like, I actually talked to some of the people at BBC America that do like their marketing and their social media, and they're just like, everybody is confused about where Orphan Black takes place.
Well, because also it's like the first thing I noticed was accents, and then also I'm like, wait, but they say dollars, and I know this is a British show, and I don't recognize those license plates.
Say dollars.
Actually, I don't know if I did, but you see, and you said, well, you knew it was in Canada, but you don't really see it's shot in Canada until
the entire first
the
episode
credits
is set
at the
in
end.
Tim Hortons.
It's
set in Tim Hortons, and then they go to hockey practice. That's how
they drink maple syrup and eat bacon.
It's at the Grassy Junior High.
And she's always asking if somebody has an extra toonie.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay, so let me say this.
They pay for everything with Canadian Tire bucks.
I was engaged with the idea of it. The acting is taking me a little bit to grow into it. It feels a little bit stilted. The one gay friend is a bit cartoonish for me.
Brother.
What? Okay. Oh, really?
Yeah.
I guess I'll find that out.
No, I think you find that out early.
I don't think that's.
It's not really a spoiler thing.
Yeah, okay.
They're adopted.
Okay. Well, yeah. I gathered that.
Also, you're adopted.
Your face is adopted.
I'm sorry that we.
Felix.
This is how we had to tell you.
Felix is his name.
Yeah. Okay. The idea of stepping
brother,
into
right.
someone else's life is great. I love the idea of the horror of realizing it's a cop and the dangerous dance and yeah. Okay. There's a lot of like I did not get swooped in. The only moment I felt like that got on Audible like whoa was the random, just as I was kind of cringing at the over the topness of the German version of her. Then all of a sudden, the shot rings out, and all of a sudden, I'm like, oh wow, we're watching an action show, and that was a cool moment.
What color is the German girl's hair?
Pink.
Okay, yeah, Katja. She was not. I've even forgotten about her, frankly. So yeah, I can see why that would be like,
Definitely not a fan.
not her best club.
At this point, it's weird because I don't know how on guard to be against this. I assume from your enthusiasm that this is going to be a pleasant unpacking and have good surprises and onion-like layers. I assume I'm not going to get losted or Battlestar Galactica or
At
whatever.
least not to the point that I've watched.
Yeah,
right.
Not getting, it doesn't take you in a place where, although there are certain moments where I'm watching and I'm like, they don't know where they're going.
Yeah.
There are certain times where I don't have that confidence in this show.
Right.
And that never really goes away, but it does minimize, I think, for me. Do you feel that way too?
What happens is I feel that way, and then they'll answer something and go, oh, well, I don't know if they knew they were going there, but they certainly went there, and now that's not a mystery anymore.
But that's a dangerous road, man.
Yeah.
That is the lost road.
And so what they've done is then they bring up a new mystery, and so they try to avoid the lost thing by saying yes, but then there's this other thing that is separate, so we're not trying to just make it up as we go along, but we've introduced a totally new mystery. I don't want to spoil anything about the end of season 2 finale, but they keep doing that.
Yeah.
And you keep starting to go, wait a minute now, you're going to be able to pay off on this? And my thing is they've started to win my trust that, all right, they actually paid off on that. So, all right.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, and this is not an appropriate thing for me to be thinking, but I did. Like the fact that she ends up having sex with that random guy that is ostensibly, her boyfriend or whatever, and gets away with it, not being seen or whatever. And I guess also she had a kid. Did I see right? A little girl. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know. It seems like if you're having sex with a different woman, and your original girlfriend did not have a kid, and then bodies change after children is what I'm trying to say. And that's all I could think of the whole time.
I'm not saying that will entirely be resolved, but if I remember right, that is going to be less of a concern-ish.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, we'll see.
It's a fair point. It's a fair point.
I'm not asking for an explanation. Yeah. I'm just saying that was a distracting thought.
I don't think it's something. Well, I don't think they saw thought specifically of what you're describing, but I know that they realized that a lot of people just weren't going to buy that he wouldn't notice. Yeah. So
they addressed that.
Man.
Okay. All right. Fine,
somewhat.
fine.
I mean, I think the other thing to know about to go in with Orphan Black is just, even though it's a Canadian production, even though it's kind of just distributed by the BBC or funded by the BBC, like it really does have that BBC drama vibe where it's like certain parts of your brain you got to shut down, and when you shut those, and they will reward you for that by speeding through the dumb.
Okay.
Right? And that's the thing. Like, this is dumb, but we're just going to get you through it in 15 seconds.
Okay.
And follow it up with something really emotional, so you kind of forget that it was dumb. And you accept it.
Well, and that's
very much the Doctor Who book of storytelling.
That's exactly what I was thinking of. Is I need to go in Doctor Who mode where it's like you are a little forgiving.
And it's hard because the setting feels much more real than Doctor Who.
Right.
It's hard to get into that sort of space opera fantasy.
It's that uncanny valley.
Yeah, it's really easy in Doctor Who to go like, well, okay. But I am accepting that he's a 1,000-year-old Time Lord. I should, get over the fact
he
that
just popped out of a phone booth.
Yeah.
Like, it's fine.
Magic flying.
Although I don't think they do it as often in Orphan Black over time. I think those moments get fewer and fewer, which is one of the things that I was happy about.
You were saying that it didn't grab you, and I'm going to say it took. Well, every series takes 3 episodes.
Sure,
right?
sure.
Everything takes 3 episodes. I'm saying that at the end of the 3 episodes, you're going to be
all the way in,
as invested as you want to be.
Okay, that's great.
About what it took me.
If season 1, I would constantly have to go like, oh, I have 3 episodes of Orphan Black to catch up on, and then I would not be sorry that I caught up. I would enjoy them, but it was never
hunger.
It was never pulling me back until near the end. And then when season 2 came, I felt like it got a lot better, and it started to really pull me in. Like, oh, it's Orphan Black Day. I got to watch today.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, I'm in.
All right.
Black.
The Shield. I watched on my phone yesterday,
which is the preferred way to watch The Shield.
Yeah.
Do you regret it? Do you feel like that affected
I did it out of practicality. Like, this is the only way I'm going to get this watched, so I'm going to watch it this way. Oddly enough, watching a show that was still shot in the era where people had, 19-inch televisions really translates well to the phone a lot better.
Yeah,
than movies.
It's what, pre-HD? It's 4:3.
It's a 4:3 ratio. There's a lot of close-up headshots. I'm like, this actually works. This is okay. I would not say it's my preferred way of viewing The Shield, but
yeah. But definitely, like, if you're going to watch it on a phone, that's the type of program.
Like holding the phone here, it's like, man, this is like watching in college.
Yeah.
With the TV all the way across the room.
The Shield is one I missed. I still haven't gotten into The Shield. A lot of people swear by it.
So what are some of the payoffs on the
Episode 8, Scar Tissue. Mackie discovers that Gardaki's been burned. That's the cliffhanger from the previous episode.
Right.
We have the side story of the Thai kid who beat up somebody with Wagenbach investigating. And really, that mystery is kind of worthless, but the whole point of it is to set up what's her name, whose name I always forget. She's the partner.
Wims?
No, she's the beat cop.
Oh, I forget her name too.
I don't remember her name.
I don't know.
Anyway, it's to set her up as possibly becoming a detective, but then bring her down at the end of the show when she gets sort of like accidentally framed because what was it that happened? She happens to be on the arrest. Oh, they discover something, and she's like, "That wasn't mine. No, that was a previous episode." I can't remember what happens to her at the end of this episode now.
Welcome to this week of what did I watch again?
Right. No, but in other words, because remember there's the Iranian woman who planted evidence in her car, and she's been up on suspension for that.
Okay.
And then she's actually out on a bus with Julian.
Yeah.
And something happens, and now she's suspended again. And Wagenbach had been trying to set her up like, maybe you should become a detective.
Right.
Then she tries to turn to Vic Mackie for help, and Vic's like, I'm not doing that right now.
Right.
And so she's at loose ends. But of course, the main part of this episode is they finally bust Armadillo. And
that's right. Mackie Pro says she shot the Arab guy, and the widow was trying to frame her.
And Wims confronts Mackie and Aceveda, but because the strike team steps in and gets Tio to knife Armadillo in holding,
right?
Armadillo's dead now.
Right.
So Wims got nothing, and she's like, "Well, I'm watching you."
Yeah.
And she confronts Aceveda, and she's like, I don't understand what's happening. So here's the thing. You let loose that the money train is important. And I, of course, know that that's still an ongoing storyline. At this point, mid-season, right? 8 episodes into a 12-episode season, you feel like Armadillo was supposed to be the story arc of the season.
Yeah.
And he just left.
Yeah.
So you're kind of in free fall. Like, okay, Vic's got problems with his wife now, even more so because Wims told her about what's been going on with Armadillo, but now Armadillo's gone, so maybe that'll help resolve it. But there's really no main threat to any of the characters at the end of this episode.
And we'll see how long, because I don't remember the exact episodes. I wonder how long you'll feel like you're in free fall, because I assume that's how it is right now. You're like, well, who are we supposed to be excited about? You should be satisfied. That's all I'm going to say.
I would assume so. I would assume they don't just spend the other 5 episodes of the season like.
He didn't say you will be. He said you should be.
Let's get into the leftovers then. Episode 2, where Arwen chops down a tree.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, it is. It is that, isn't it?
Goes completely against the elf code of honor.
Yeah. You are of the woodland elf. No, she's not actually.
So I am not scooped all the way into this as well. Now there are things about the leftovers that I like a lot. First of all, did we not have a title sequence in the pilot for this? Because I really noticed the title sequence with the painting moving and all that bit.
I don't think so.
I don't think we did.
Yeah.
Because I noticed that too this time, and I was like, man, that's good.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Good.
And
I was like, how did I miss that? So there are things I absolutely adore about this world. I am super engaged. What's up with the cult of smoking people wearing white and not talking? And I look forward to getting details on that. I'm less enamored with the hugging doctor. I'll tell you, I had a big problem with the beginning of the second episode. Like, maybe took me out. I assumed that this beginning had to be a dream sequence, because the idea of cops, even adrenaline junkie cops coming in and just shooting unarmed civilians in a cult willy-nilly was so nonsensical to me, so far from it. Mm-hmm. Like, especially after we saw everything with Waco, and that those were armed cultists. The idea that they just go in and shoot everything was like, well, this has to be a dream or something stupid. And then I just spent 15 minutes annoyed that that's actually how they opened everything.
Well, we don't know entirely what this dude's deal is, though. Wayne, the hugging. You're talking about the hugging, the hugging creepo. Like, and the idea is like,
hug it out of you.
Like he's gonna take your pain from you. I don't know. Like,
but did that
get this feeling? They even name check Waco right in the beginning. Like the main detective is like, we don't want another Waco.
Well, yeah. And so the way to do it is go around and shoot them immediately.
Well, as soon as they open, the difference is like where Waco wasn't a cult where they were going to open fire. These guys immediately opened fire.
Well, okay,
right?
yeah, well, yeah, but again, that's not what I mean. Did we see that? Did they open fire in the beginning? Because all I remember is repeatedly seeing an unarmed person get a hole in them and fall down.
No. Those guys had guns. They were trying to leave the unarmed cult members alone.
All right,
the security guys with guns were getting shot. All of the women and the younger people were like running away. I thought it was just jarring tonally for the show.
Agreed.
But I do feel like within the first couple episodes here, like Peter Berg is really setting up this very strange world where we feel as lost as the people do.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, it works because jumping all around and like just this feeling of what is going on.
Right.
Why are they doing this? How is this harsh when nothing in this show has been this harsh yet?
Right.
Felt kind of appropriate to me, especially after the non-violent demonstration in the park. I was kind of like, okay, that's a good contrast because both ways ended in violence. Everything in this world ends in violence. I'm okay with it.
Right.
Oh, there's a dog. There's a deer. Everything ends in violence in this world.
All right. No, I can see that.
I like Hug It Out Guy.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying about the Branch Davidian. You used to be one, so it's sensitive for you. But.
I used to live south of Waco, if that's what you mean.
He still gets his mail forwarded.
That's right. Branch Davidian.
Branch. Yeah.
No, I get what you're saying about that, but that's one of those like, I'm just, they stormed the castle and they ran everybody off. And so how it happened, I can sort of encapsulate off and be like, might have been a better way to tell them that. But the effect would have been the same. Everybody's on the run and the cop's son is protecting the girl and Hug It Out Guy finds him. And so I'm good with where that went.
Yeah.
Like, okay. Also, remember that this is a world that's different, right? Just like our real world was different after September 11th, 2001. This is, the 14th has changed this world. And so maybe that explains some of this stuff. Obviously, congressmen showing up and getting hugged in a totally different way than usual is a concern here. I like that part of it. I want to see where that's going. And that villain is so cool because he is like, you almost want to trust him. Like, oh, he just wants to take your pain and it's all about love. And then goes all cross-eyed and gets evil. And you're like, okay, I don't want anything to do with him.
Yeah, I really dig on that. I dig on the fact that because towards the end of the episode, when we meet the police chief's father.
Yeah, I enjoyed that a lot because I find myself, as they kind of indicate that there's something off about what this, dog shooting guy.
Yeah.
Like I find myself doing little things.
From Jericho.
Is that yeah. Okay? Little things like I noted. I was like, oh, good. His daughter grabbed the 6-pack, so the guy's got to be real,
right?
And then, but then I thought, like, well, is he? Maybe this is just, like Tyler Durden. He's, just the way he sees things, is wonky. Loved that moment when his dad's like, they said they sent someone. Like, I don't know. I'm very engaged.
I was crazy like my dad. Is this a world where there really is supernatural stuff going on?
Well, I mean, obviously there is, since everybody vanished.
I like that that's starting to ramp up.
Yeah.
But how supernatural is it?
Right.
I would have been disappointed if she would have taken the beer and never acknowledged the guy, right? Because then you could say like, oh, well, maybe she just took the beer from Dad and he's pretending. But she says, who was that?
Right.
So I'm like, thank you for making that perfectly clear that even though this guy is somewhat imaginary, he's not actually imaginary. And then when they bring the dad in and he's talking to invisible people, you're like, oh, okay. So now you've changed the game on me twice. And I really enjoy it. And I
like that because it's showing that everything, even if there's a scene, that's the other reason why the compound being stormed, I feel like everything in this show is so methodically planned, and I really do feel like episode 3 or 4 is when the hammer's going to drop. Something big is going to happen in the next episode or 2 that's going to give us a revelation.
Damon Lindelof is like, I will not be accused of not planning an ending.
Yeah, never again. Never again. If a strike happens, it's all in my desk.
That's right.
No, so I feel like even when something feels out of place or weird or wrong, that they just plotted it out so well. And so I'm so on board.
So the doggone it, I had a
well, because speaking of dogs, I don't like the dog killing thing here, and I didn't like until the end, and I don't like the dogs are being killed, but I mean I don't like this sort of like, are you sure it's not you doing it, Chief? I was like, oh come on, is it all a dream? Like he's actually doing the killing, and then the truck shows up. The fact that they took the risk of letting me be disappointed with that, and then turned it around by saying, no, the guy's real. Oh wait, and now Dad is, Grandpa, whatever, is talking to people. That just turned me all right around. I'm like, okay, now I actually really like that storyline
because there are real people talking to potentially fake people, and now it's like, well, this is something completely different than I ever would have imagined.
Yeah,
I really liked the beat with the missing bagels at that moment, where because you feel so adrift and confused and all over the place, and just to have that, like, just one more thing, like, come on, can anything just make sense in this world? And the fact that he came back and did the follow-up, I enjoyed that immensely.
And it's so great because it showed that he is so adrift that he had to go unscrew the bagel thing to prove to himself that that wasn't part of the weirdness.
It's so great. And you look back even at episode 1 where he tries to tell the woman that her dog is dead. And she thinks that he's his father. And she goes, didn't you go crazy? And the look on his face when he's like, no, that was my dad. And he's trying to do like friendly sheriff smile. And he's like, but I'm afraid every day that I'm coming unhinged.
Oh, yeah.
I am afraid every day that I have no grip. This is hereditary. Whatever's happening is happening to me.
That's the other thing. Like, to lose two out of his 3 family members to, or I assume, have they talked about whether or not who they've lost in their family? Did they ever?
I think every picture that they shows that they didn't lose anybody specifically.
Yeah, they haven't.
All they really lost was his wife joined that cult that.
And his son is the right-hand man of Dr.
Huggy Bear.
That's the thing, is like nobody physically disappeared from him, and his family's gone anyway.
Yeah.
Which is like, it's so good because that's your main character is like, it's even worse. It's an even worse situation.
I will say one more thing. It continues to very much feel like a primetime broadcast television show to me.
It does.
And that's fine. That's fine.
That's not a criticism. It's just a different feel for an HBO show.
Yeah, it is a surprising one. All right, you ready to get apey?
Let's break dawn over these apes. First of all, before we even get into the storyline, let's talk the ape in the room, the CGI apes. I forgot they were CGI. I'm not saying that they're perfect, but I stopped thinking about it. It's
very impressive.
Yeah.
It is, I will say, and I mean this sincerely, I think it might be the prettiest movie of this entire year. I can't think, and I don't just mean like the quality of the animation and the design of the apes. Also, I mean, the set pieces are extraordinary. I'm surprised you didn't even want to see it. It's all San Francisco.
I'll see it when it comes out. I'll see it when it's like at home.
All right.
I'll rent it.
On
I'll
mute.
Buy it. It doesn't matter.
The design. There's also some interesting puzzles they'd have to solve for apes, and this is apesist of us. They all look the same to me, them apes. But to figure out a logical reason for why you could have different, characters and be able to recognize them, I absolutely adored the transitional nature of their language, where it's mainly American Sign Language, but occasionally they'll use words, but you could tell that that's not their favorite way, or that's not the most
It did feel like
way.
it was a little bit of a trick to spring that on us with the go. Like, they could have been saying things earlier, but I understand why they didn't want to reveal it, and so.
Yeah, or I guess that was an important moment for the humans, because that's when they realized that the apes can talk. The only negatives, it's just. It took, and I don't know. It took the first 2 acts before we finally got to a place where I didn't know what was going to happen. It's just I wish there were surprises.
You got to a point where you didn't know what was going to happen.
I thought that the end of the movie would be at the end of the
monkey
second.
gets on a horse. That's what happens.
He's an ape.
Gun.
Yeah,
Anthony.
No. I thought, since the purpose of the movie was to basically, show the ascendancy of the apes over the humans, I thought that we were seeing the end of the movie when the apes all came in, and Koba. I thought Caesar died, Koba takes over, and they win the war, and that's how this movie ends. And instead, Caesar didn't die, but it didn't matter. I mean, that's the weird part, is there's this whole third act that's about like, well, at least Caesar got back and he defeats Koba or whatever, but kind of, it's moot anyway.
Well, because the next
well
movie has already been titled Battle of the Planet of the Apes, so you got to set up a battle, Brian.
Well, and I guess also at that point, Caesar is your main character.
I knew Caesar wasn't dead, and I would have been more excited if he had been. Not because I wanted him to die, but when he died, I'm like, I just don't feel like this is the kind of movie that's going to leave him dead. And when he came back, I'm like, yeah, I kind of
thought
figured.
It might have been there was one moment that there truly was an opportunity for a genuine surprise, and they didn't take it.
Yeah.
That moment when Caesar's son comes around the corner and slowly drops the gun down, or lifts the gun up, and then keeps on going. But like at that moment, you're like, oh, he's going to spare him. Like at that moment, if he had pulled the trigger and they just killed off who was our main character up until that point, that would have been amazing.
Yeah.
Mind blowing.
Is the ape going to get on a horse? Is he not going to get on a horse?
Let me say real
like
quick
when they shot Maurice, and you're like, wait, I'm like, no, they're not going to kill Maurice. And of course, the next shot is Maurice standing up. He's got a little cut on his face. Like, oh,
Yeah.
you got shot in the face. I guess you just bleed a little.
Yeah. I will say, except for the Uncanny Valley, that there were extended periods where I got lost totally in it and I believed it.
Yeah.
But then what's weird is the moments that they were on screen together didn't bother me when I'm seeing this blend. What's weird is seeing just apes for a while and then snapping to just humans. You're like, oh yeah, no, that's different. It's like you think the apes look good, and then you see that jump to reality, and you're like, oh no, that is.
I never thought about that. That didn't stick out to me. The thing that stuck out to me was the ridiculously large plot holes, too many of them in the human storyline. The ape storyline I thought was pretty tight, and really compelling. And the way they spent time showing you what an ape culture would have been like and what their structures were and where they, I thought that was all very well done and very well told. The human story was just dumb. It was just like, oh, well,
we want power.
We need to have the guy from Fringe be the bad guy, but we need a reason for him to come. So we'll say he's the water main employee and he has to come. But then when it becomes inconvenient, we'll lock him in the truck because apparently we don't need his expertise anymore.
I wonder if that's like, I felt the same way about Godzilla. I feel the same way about all the Transformers movies, which is just like, dude, I came in to see apes on horses. Like, I don't care about these dudes.
Yeah.
If it's Ape Planet, then just give me Ape Planet, and I just want to see that for 2 hours. Like, minimize the human cruft.
Man.
And I'm saying this not having seen the movie.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I just know that in these big CGI movies, whenever there's just like, and now it's Godzilla, and it's like, but is it, or is it some like generic dude running across country for 2.5 hours and 15 minutes of Godzilla?
Because Pacific Rim is that done right.
Yeah, exactly.
Like large plot holes that I can give a crap about because I got to see kaiju and monsters and robots fight each other, right?
Yeah.
Dawn of the Planet of the Apes was like giving me a really good story on one half and then not bothering on the other half.
Yeah, I can see it. At the end of the day, this is a problem when it's a movie that only delivers fulfillment. We all knew where things had to end up, and along the way, you can get there and have surprises by making me care about a new character or whatever. But instead, they kind of pull the prequels where it's like there's just no surprises. It's all answers. Questions are better than answers.
The only
and
surprise,
no questions in this,
even though it's not a huge surprise, the only surprise is the end where Caesar's like, no, you got to go, humans. Because you think Caesar loves humans, right? Like he actually does respect humans, and he remembers James Franco very nicely. And
he's one of the few people from the original movie that remembers James Franco.
But in the end, he's like, well, I have to bow to the fact that there's going to be another movie that involves a big war, so you got to get out of here. And I see it's one of those things where like I see that they could have done it in a way I believed, and they just didn't seem to give it much effort.
Yeah. All right. Let's see it.
All right, but like at the end of the day, did the ape get on a horse and shoot a gun?
He totally did.
Did he get on a horse and shoot a gun, or did he just get on a horse but also shoot a gun later?
All of the above.
I mean, then like whatever, you got what you came for. It does what it says on the tin. Apes had guns.
That's true.
Would ape again. Will ape again summer 2016.
Oh, you know what? There was one moment of genuine surprise, and I liked it very much. Koba's dealing when he's at gunpoint with the two hayseeds. Two hayseeds out shooting.
All comical.
Yeah,
that was in the trailer. I saw that and I was like, man, that's a good sequence.
Yeah.
But you can only pull that off once in a movie like that.
And you've already showed it to us.
Actually, no, you can do it twice because they did.
Well, yeah,
you did it again.
I mean,
later.
You can do it twice.
And no romance. I mean, a little bit with Caesar and his wife and the baby thing, but really that wasn't a romance story. No romantic stories here.
Yo, you know what they need in that battle?
What?
Ape Romeo, Lady Julia. Let's do this. Let's take this to its natural conclusion. Battle for the hearts of the planet of the apes.
Caesar's son should have fallen for Felicity.
Oh my gosh.
Ours is a forbidden love.
Kerry Russell and an ape.
Man.
In battle for the planet of the apes' hearts.
Blow $300 million on it and then say, the world just wasn't ready for this story.
I'm there, man. It's an allegory for society. I'm ready.
It's an allegory for just wrapping up.
And speaking of wrapping up, we ready to wrap up?
We're ready to wrap.
We're ready to wrap up. Thank you, Anthony Carboni, for hanging around for Spoilerin Time.
Sure, thanks for having me.
Yeah, that was fantastic. Folks, you can find it Spoilerin Time in your Patreon feed on the day it's recorded, usually, or at least within 24 hours. Patreon.com/Cordkillers. And everybody else gets it by usually Wednesday. Zach gets it up. And big thanks to Zach for putting that all together.
Heck yes.
See you all later.